Range script loaded, you can now press Escape, select Choose Slot, and pick your aircraft. For rocket attacks, the Viggen can mount up to 4 ARAC M70B rocket launcher pods, manufactured by Bofors, each containing 6 135mm rockets. They can be used against most types of ground units, ranging from soft targets to armored units or installations. The pods can be loaded with either high-explosive or armor-piercing rockets. The latter have a smaller area of effect, but are more effective against armor. The Viggen's computer can employ the rockets in one of 3 modes. The pre-planned attack mode, the quick mode, which can be used against targets of opportunity, and the long-range mode, where the rockets can be fired from over twice as far. The first 2 modes, attack or quick, are very similar and have the same maximum range of 2 to 3 kilometers, but the former needs to have a target waypoint predefined for the target. It is more precise than the quick mode because it uses radar ranging, while the other employs barometric triangulation, which is less accurate. The long-range mode will inherently be less accurate than the other 2, but offers the ability to launch the rockets at up to 6 to 7 kilometers range, thereby placing the aircraft outside of shorter-range air defense assets. Press space bar to continue. For this training mission, we will use a weapons range at Mud Lake, which employs assets created by the 476th Virtual Fighter Group, plus a weapons range script developed by the user Sirabob, which will allow you to gauge your shooting accuracy. To succeed, you will have to shoot all of your rockets on a target circle enclosed within a square, located on the northern side of the range. Do not confuse it with the larger circle, pointed at by a long arrow, which is a bombing target. You will be able to choose which of the rocket's 3 employment modes you want to practice. Once selected, you can't change your choice. You will have to repeat the mission if you want to practice the remaining modes. Once you have finished your attack, you can review your accuracy statistics calling up the F10 option of the communications menu. Press space bar to begin the training. We will first contact ATC to request taxi clearance. The Viggen's FR-22 primary radio is already tuned to the ATC frequency. Press the key or button that you have binded to the radio's push-to-talk button. The DCS communications menu should appear. Select F5, ATC, F1, Tonopah Test Range, F3, Request Startup.
Dodge 2-1.
We had to request startup because unfortunately ATC does not detect that our aircraft was already with engines running. So, now continue with F1, Request Taxi to Runway.
Dodge
After a few
2-1.
seconds,
Request
ATC
taxi
should
to
answer
runway.
and clear us to a takeoff runway. Take note of the runway number. If there is other traffic on the taxiways, ATC might delay the answer until the taxiways are clear. Press spacebar once the controller gives you clearance. ATC cleared for us runway 14, which is very near, to our right. Feel free to perform, or not, the before taxi checklist. Press spacebar once you are ready to taxi. We are now ready to taxi. Increase throttle slightly, test wheel brakes, and once the aircraft advances, turn right to taxi towards runway 14. Stop just short of the designated runway. We will now contact ATC again to request takeoff clearance. Press the push-to-talk button of the FR-22 radio. The DCS communications menu should appear. Select F1, request takeoff.
Dodge 2-1.
After a few seconds,
Request takeoff.
ATC should answer and give us clearance. Press spacebar once ATC has granted permission to enter the runway.
Climb 300 at QFE 24.49.
Okay, now that you have clearance, look left and right to ensure there is no other traffic, release the brakes, and enter the runway. If ATC tells you unable to clear takeoff, ignore it as it is a long-standing DCS bug. Turn left, and align with the center line of the runway. Once aligned, press the wheel brakes and stop the aircraft to a complete halt.
Dodge 2-1. You are cleared for takeoff when ready. Climb 300 at QFE 24.49.
Good, you should now proceed with the rest of the before takeoff procedure, which you already learned on the takeoff training mission. It is important to check, as a minimum, the runway heading on the Viggen's computer, as a wrong heading will impact on the accuracy of the navigation. Press spacebar once you are ready to take off. Okay, we will now proceed with the takeoff. Apply full wheel brakes. Advance throttle to maximum military power, check EGT. Release brakes. Use rudder pedals to steer. Advance throttle into afterburner. Monitor the timeline on the HUD, rotate when it reaches its end markers. Airborne. Retract landing gear. The HUD is now out of takeoff mode. Point the aircraft towards the waypoint dot on the horizon line to head towards the B1 waypoint. Raise the HUD glass. Do not exceed 500 meters altitude to have maximum navigation precision. Cruise at an economical speed of Mach 0.6 until you arrive to the weapons range. Once you reach waypoint B1, turn left to proceed to waypoint B2. Once you reach waypoint B2, turn left again to proceed to waypoint B3. Once you reach waypoint B3, turn left. The weapon's range is located at waypoint B4. We won't be repeating the basics of the Viggen's weaponry, as those were explained back on training mission M10, on ground strafing. If you have skipped that training, you may prefer to exit the current mission to perform M10 first. Press spacebar to continue with the current training mission, or press backspace if you prefer to exit. As we said on the intro, on this mission you can learn each of the 3 rocket employments modes of the Viggen. Press spacebar to learn the normal range modes, or press backspace to employ the long range mode. On normal range, the rockets can be fired 2 to 3 kilometers away from the target, and 2 modes are provided. Pre-planned attack mode, using radar ranging, or quick mode, using triangulation to determine range to the target. Press spacebar to use the attack mode, or press backspace to use the quick mode. Attack mode. On this mode, the attack is made using ANF master mode, against a pre-planned target waypoint, for which its QFE is known. This allows the preliminary target sighting to display accurate attack symbology on the HUD, but the final targeting is done using radar ranging, for higher precision. Press spacebar to continue. Both the attack and the long-range modes require having a target waypoint on our flight plan, but the Viggen flight plans created on the DCS mission editor, like the one of this mission, have only normal waypoints. The weapon's range is located at waypoint B5, and to employ these rocket attack modes, we need to convert it into a target point. The procedure for doing so is as follows. 1. Set the data selector to tact, as all tactical weapon configurations are done on this position. 2. Set the INUT switch to input, as we will be entering a value. 3. Enter the code 9 on the keypad. 4. Press the waypoint button that actually corresponds to a target point. On this case, press B5. You can't see it on the destination indicator, as we are still headed towards B4, but rest assured that the waypoint B5 has been changed into M5. On this training, we want to exercise the real rocket attack profiles that the Viggen employed. This means flying low and use terrain to mask our approach, and then popping up prior to reaching the target, to spot it, get a firing solution, and do a quick attack on it before evading the enemy and go back to low altitude. On the real Viggen, you could define on the computer a pop-up point, and it would automatically define the correct target point. However, on DCS, you must first define the target point, which we just already did, and then create the pop-up point. A pop-up point, symbolized with U plus a digit, is defined by entering the direction and distance from the pop-up point to the target waypoint M. For this training mission we want to perform the attack flying on a northern heading, say 330 degrees, and from a distance of 8 kilometers from the target. As for a long-range rocket mode, we can shoot from 2 to 3 kilometers. The procedure for creating the pop-up point is as follows. 1. Set the data selector to tact. We already have it on that position. 2. Set the INUT switch to input, which it already is. 3. On the keypad, enter the code 33080. The first 3 digits corresponds to the 330 degrees heading that we want for the attack, while the 080 corresponds to the 8 kilometers distance we want for the offset from the target point. In case of pressing a wrong button during the input, cycle the INUT switch in order to clear the input window. 4. Press the waypoint button that corresponds to a target point. On this case, press B5. The pop-up waypoint U5 will be created from the entered offset in relationship to the target point M5. 5. Set the INUT switch back to output. 6. Set the data selector back to ACT-POS. Press spacebar to continue. Rocket pods preparation checklist. 1. Weapon selector, set to attack, to select the rockets as the active weapon. 2. Release mode switch. For the attack and quick rocket modes, leave this switch at norm, up. 3. Set the HUD to its lower position, to ensure visibility of the attack symbology. 4. Set HUD mode to low altitude, by setting the SLAV SI switch to FRAN, off. 5. Set the altitude source selector, hide CISI, to RHM. This will ensure the radar altimeter is used as the primary altitude source, which has a more accurate reading at low altitudes. 6. Set current altimeter pressure, QFE. QFE is the air pressure at the target point. It's used by the computer to calculate the distance between the aircraft and the target, when the radar is not able to measure the distance. Read the QFE of the target on the kneeboard, located on waypoint B5, M5, and set the altimeter to that air pressure. Press spacebar to continue. Good, the rocket pods are now ready to use. You have reached waypoint B4. Turn left, towards the U5 pop-up point. Fly fast and low, at 0.7 to 0.8 Mach and less than 500 meters. We are nearing the weapon's range. The rocket target is the circle enclosed within a square, on the northern side of the range. Let's review the rocket delivery profile that the Viggen employs, as once the attack begins it will all happen fast. 1. Master mode, set to ANF, attack, once you begin the pop-up climb, to an altitude of at least 500 meters AGL at normal range, or 1000 for a long-range delivery. The HUD will then display the attack symbology, with a small ring being superimposed on the target point, this being the target indicator ring, tier. 2. When at the top of the climb, throttle back to idle, then start a dive to acquire visually the target. Ideally the dive should be around 15 degrees nose down. 3. During the dive, steer the aircraft to align the reticle dot with the target, which should be near the tier. Once the target and the reticle dot are aligned, check that radar ranging is being performed. A fin should be visible above the reticle dot. 4. Once the reticle dot is over the target and stable, set the trigger to unsafe by clicking on the stick safety cover. It is best if you bind a HOTAS button to this action, so that you can perform it while maneuvering the flight stick. When you unsafe the trigger, the computer will mark the target and provide more accurate ranging information. The tear should disappear. 5. Keep the reticle dot on the target. The distance line will flash 2 seconds before the firing point. 6. Wings will appear on the sides of the reticle dot, half a second before the firing point. Press and hold the weapon release trigger to fire all your rockets. On the real Viggen, it is not possible to do a partial firing. On DCS there is an unrealistic way to do single fire, but it has a bug that impairs its accuracy, so we will not use it. 7. Once you have performed your attack, pull up at 5G and, for realism's sake, evade left or right. Press spacebar to unpause the mission and put this procedure into practice. You've reached the U5 pop-up point. Climb sharply to at least 500 meters AGL and then turn right towards the target to initiate your rocket attack profile. After the attack, exit the range by heading north. Deactivate the armament with this short procedure. 1. Set trigger to safe by clicking on the stick safety cover. 2. Set master mode to nav and press B6 to select the next waypoint. Good. This completes the weapons disarm procedure. You can check your range results by calling up the communications menu. Select F10, Other, then select F1, Range. Finally, click F3, My Bombing Results. You have completed the main subject of this training mission. Press spacebar if you want to fly back and land at Tonopah, or press backspace to end the training now. Okay, you have chosen to proceed and practice a landing at Tonopah Air Base. Continue straight ahead until you reach waypoint B5 of our flight plan. Once you reach waypoint B5, turn right towards waypoint L1, Tonopah Air Base. Make sure the radio is tuned to preset 17, which corresponds to Tonopah's ATC, then press your PTT binding to request landing clearance. On the communications menu select F5, ATC. F1, Tonopah test range. F1, inbound.
Dodge 2-1.
The tower will answer with the heading and distance to its landing approach point, which we will ignore since we are already past that point, but it will also inform which runway they have assigned. It should be runway 14. Press F12 to clear the communications menu. Press spacebar once you receive the ATC's answer. Once you get nearer the airbase, ATC will ask you to contact tower. At that point press PTT again, and then select F1, request landing. Set master mode to land Ning Nav, and begin a shallow descent towards the runway. Reduce throttle and extend the air brakes if necessary, to reduce speed to 600 km per hour, in order to extend the landing gear. Once under 600 km per hour, lower the landing gear. Retrim the aircraft as needed, arm the thrust reverser, lower the HUD, raise the seat, and set the landing light switch to its landing position, full forward. Once near the runway, the HUD automatically enters landing mode, with the symbology dropping 3 degrees below the horizon. Change the master mode to land Ning PO, to have a more decluttered HUD. Do it now. Align the dot with the FPM and with the desired touchdown point, keep the FPM slightly above the glide line, for a soft touchdown.
Dodge 2-1. Cleared for visual. Contact tower.
Dodge 2-1. Request landing.
Dodge 2-1. Check landing gear. Wind 157 at 4 meters per second. Runway 14.
On touchdown, move the throttle back to idle, and lower the nose. The thrust reverser will activate when the nose will touches the ground. Not a normal procedure, but on this mission bring the aircraft to a complete halt, while still on the runway. At that point, we will present you with a landing distance report.
Dodge 2-1. Taxi to parking area.
Disable the thrust reverser by pushing the handle. The green light above it should go out. After you get the landing distance report, increase throttle and exit the runway at the first available exit, to the left. This is taxiway Delta. Proceed forward, towards the ramp. Perform the following steps after leaving the runway. Master mode selector. Set to position BER. Taxi landing lights, set to taxi, at its full back position. Radar altimeter, set to off, Fran. This completes the after landing procedure. Press spacebar to finish the training.